we got to stop fighting against our natural way of being. Our minds naturally will go past, present, future, it's a cycle. What we don't realize is that if we hit a pain point from the past, that literally eclipses our moment now. I didn't have enough before, I don't have enough now, so in the future I'm not going to have enough either. I have a choice. When you can get your reference to the past healed, I'm now attracting things from that place.
Hey, pod people. Welcome to this week's episode of Why Do People Do That? We are very excited to introduce our guest this week. We have Christy Whitman, who is a master certified law of attraction coach for 25 years now and is a 2-time New York Times bestselling author. So, Christy, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be with both of you and to talk about the flow factor and why people do the things they do, right? Why did they do that?
Yep.
Yes, that's the point. So I'd love if we can maybe start with, I definitely want to hear all about your book. But before we do, if we can hear a little bit more about you, if you could just tell us, because you're the master of who you are, right? The master law of attraction coach. Tell us what that means, for our viewers or listeners that may not know too much about the law of attraction and what is a life coach. If we can get a better understanding of you and what you do, I think that would be a great start.
Perfect. So let me back up because I got to a point in my life where I was checking the boxes of all the things that I thought should make me happy. Went to college, got a degree, started a great career, was making money, had friends, got engaged, and I found myself really feeling very dissatisfied, very empty, and really feeling depressed because I thought, well, like all these outer things I was supposed to make me happy, how come I'm still feeling empty? And so for me, what I attracted was the teachings of the universal laws. So not just law of attraction, and we'll talk about that, but the other, what I call 7 essential laws. And I like to think of it as knowing the rules of the game, right? It's like the game of life. And I think about like how successful would we be if we all of a sudden were given, hey, let's go play baseball, and I didn't know the rules, you didn't know the rules, and someone says you have to hit that ball, with a bat, and then you do, and then everyone's yelling at you, run, and you run to third, and now you're out, right? It helps to know what the rules of the game are in order to play them and know. So I like to think about these universal laws as knowing the rules of the game, because as soon as I started applying the law of attraction in particular, which is one of the more common universal laws that people know about because the movie The Secret and the book The Secret, the law of attraction is like gravity, right? You throw a ball up, what's going to happen? It's going to come back down. And it doesn't matter if you're female, if you're male, if you're Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter if you live in Canada, the United States, it's going to happen. You throw a ball up, it's going to come down. So the same laws apply, but they're universal laws. And with law of attraction, it's that what you are sending out as your own personal energy, you are attracting people, situations, circumstances back to you. So I like to think of it as a boomerang. What you send out comes back to you. And when I started applying, knowing about it, and then deliberately applying the law of attraction, my life went from this point where I quit my job because I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't stand it. I had gained like 30 pounds. I got $60,000 in debt. I was living in a very strange woman's house, renting a room. I didn't have any passion or purpose. I went from literally doing that to shifting everything. And I remember looking at my life 5 years later. I was married. I was living in my dream home. I had my ideal body. I was totally out of debt. I had money in the bank. I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. It wasn't necessarily my passion and purpose, but I was, had a career that I felt good doing. And so it was amazing how much I pivoted and how much I changed just by applying it. And it was around that time, and part of the flow factor and what I've been teaching for 25 years, where I was realizing, okay, I've got all this stuff. I've got all the outer accolades. I've got the man, I've got the money, I've got, the body, I got the this, the that. Yet I was feeling there's still something more. And for me, it became a practice of understanding that there's just two totally different mentalities. One is of lack, where nothing is ever enough, doesn't matter how much you accomplish, what you have, it's never going to be enough. Or there's the other perspective, which is abundance, where you feel fulfilled and where all of the good stuff that we want, the joys and the
Mhm.
passion and the purpose and all that feel good. So I realized that, okay, I've got all this, but I'm not feeling passion and purpose in the career that I'm doing. I don't know what that looks like, but I know that working with energy and working with law of attraction, that if I cultivate or imagine feeling and bring in this feeling of passion and purpose, then my outer reality will reflect it, because as within, so without. So I started to meditate. I started journaling. I started contemplating what being in a career where I was passionate about it, where I felt truly on purpose. And that's when, about a month later, after consistently bringing in this feeling, I had my very first book, come through me. And what I mean by that is I was in meditating as part of my tools that I use,
Mhm.
and the book Perfect Pictures, which was like I said, my first book, that came into my meditation, it came into my visualization, and all of a sudden the pages started turning, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never written a
Mhm.
book. I don't know what that's about. But I went to bed that night, and 1:05 in the morning, it was like someone was talking in my ear. And I first was like, stop it, because I'm trying to sleep, right? But I
Mhm.
started listening to what the voice was telling me, what the intuition was telling me. And so I got up and started writing down the first sentence, the first, paragraph. And then all of a sudden, my hand just started automatically writing. One hand was turning the page while the other one just started flowing. And that was me writing my book, because that happened 7 days in a row. So
Wow.
I went and got the book published. All my friends and family thought I had gone bonkers, because, I'm talking about energy and universal laws and
Mhm.
things like that. And so I started speaking in spiritual bookstores and churches. And I was doing a workshop. And this is mid 90s, right? Or this is 25 years ago, actually. This is 2000. And I was talking on the contents of my book, and I had people in the workshop say, "Are you a coach?" And I thought, "Coach? What do you mean? Like a football coach, cheerleading coach, right?"
Right. Wasn't
No,
so common then.
Yeah.
no, yeah, it wasn't common at
Yeah.
all, right? So,
Mhm.
um, so I would tell them, I don't know about this coaching business, but go ahead and give me a call. I'll give you my number. And so I was helping them shift their perspectives. I was helping them shift their mindsets and their thoughts and the way they were speaking. And I was helping them shift and heal their energy through their emotions. And so if they felt worried about something, shifting them to get excited about something. And I love that process of helping somebody do that. And then they would get the result. It was like, I met him, or I got the job, or I got the
Mhm.
promotion.
Mm.
And so I just love being part of their transformation. And so for me, that's really what a coach, a law of attraction coach is someone that can hold space for someone, that, see them where they want to be, not necessarily where they are, and help them transform, whether it's a thought of from lack to abundance, or a mindset, their language, helping them shift so that they can be in a different vibrational state, so that they're there then able to receive something different.
I'm just sort of wondering, like, how do you do that? How do you help people make that shift?
Well, I pay attention, right? So I know, and after lots of studies of first shifting myself, because I came from a very big lack mentality. Nothing was ever enough. And so there's certain nuances that I understood, and kind of the Cliff Note version of one of the universal laws, which is the law of sufficiency and abundance. When we are in lack, when we're in scarcity, when we are bumping up against our limitations, we don't feel good. And that's the
Mm.
easiest way to know that. Internally, for everybody that's listening, for each of you, it's like when you're thinking about something and you don't feel good, that's where the fears, the doubts, the worries, disappointments, all the lower level emotions come from. It's also where a lot of behaviors that don't feel good. It might feel good in the moment, like gossiping, right? But we're doing it from a place of lack. We don't feel good, or we're competing, right? Female
Mhm.
competition, competing with a friend. Oh, my diamond's bigger than yours, or my husband's hotter than yours, or, the things that women sillily enough that we do.
Mhm.
Procrastination, those kind of like judging ourselves, criticizing. All of those behaviors come from being in lack. And when we shift into a mentality of abundance, it's all about inclusion. And it's not a one up, one down kind of competitive thing. Everybody is abundant. Everybody can have what they desire. And that's where, you feel the wholeness, you feel the wellness, you feel the joy and the inclusion and the success and the abundance. And that just feels good. So abundance always feels good, whereas lack always feels bad. And
Mhm.
when someone's telling me, oh, this is going on and this is how I'm feeling, or, I can see them suppressing their emotions, then it's like we go into where are they currently and where do they want to be? And sometimes it's a thought that they change that makes them feel better. And then we lean into that. Or sometimes it's changing their words. I did a whole program because words are important, right?
Yeah.
Words, it even said in the Bible, in the beginning, there was the word. Our words are the spark of creation. And so, there are 30, a little bit more too, but 30 words and phrases that all of us say, it's very common, that comes from lack. And when we speak it, we then think it, we then feel it, and then we, either do something or don't do something based on that.
And get
So,
stuck there.
yeah. So I created watchyourwords.com. You can go there. It's a free program. It's videos that tell you what not to say, why, and what to say instead. Because when you
Mm.
start changing your language, you change your reality.
Mhm. Your whole mindset and the way you're kind of viewing the
Yeah.
world.
I love
Absolutely.
that. I think that, what that really gives our listeners is a really simple way to get started, right? It's what's the low hanging fruit. And so I can kind of share an example from my own life. I'll try to make it as brief as possible so I'm not taking up, too much time talking about myself. But I went through a really, really difficult time. So that we're talking back in like the early 2000s. I was in a terrible marriage. It was abusive and it was just a really, really dark time. And so it had spiraled into everything just going wrong and everything in my life being bad financially and emotionally, just everything. And so my holy shit moment was, my bank parking lot story, my
Mm.
story, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So just to make a long story short, um, you know, my ex-husband was an alcoholic and he had a major, major spending problem. Our house had gone into foreclosure and I, dropped my kids off at school one day and I went to the bank like normal people do. And I had some checks in my hand and I was a therapist at the time, just like I am now. And I had a bunch of checks from patients, because I had my private practice and I went to walk into the bank to deposit my checks. And the bank teller looks at me and says, "Oh, honey, you don't want to deposit these." And I was like, "I don't." And she's like, "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but no." And I'm like, "Why?" And she was like, your bank account is being garnished." And I was like, "Of course it is."
Thanks,
Right.
Wow.
Frank.
So my ex-husband had, at the time was my husband, was, had all this debt. And so it was a credit card that he was not, that he had, I think like maxed out it to $10,000 or something like that. And he, didn't pay it for so long. And then a judgment was against him. And I didn't even know this was happening. And so this was a bank account in both of our names. And we barely had anything in the bank because he had a spending problem. So whatever was in the bank was being held now to go, to this judgment. And so now I couldn't even deposit my checks. So I'm like, I have no access to the little money I do have. And the checks that I have, I can't deposit. I don't have any cash. I have two little children that I need to feed. what am I even doing? So then I go to leave the bank and I'm walking towards my car. And while I was in the bank getting this wonderful news, my car had been sideswiped in the parking lot.
No.
I swear. And I just see like the mirror hanging,
Oh, jeez.
almost like mocking me. And I was like, at this point, I was just like, okay, all right. So I get in the car and I sat in my car like totally catatonic, I think until about the time I had to pick my kids up from school. I just couldn't move. I just watched people walking in and out of the bank.
Banking like normal people.
Banking like normal. And I was like, their life is normal. They just like go to the bank like normal people. And I had just within the weeks before this happened, I had read The Secret by Rhonda Byrne and I loved it. And I was like, all right, I have nothing to lose. I've got to do this. And I remember the week before this happened, I had one of those crazy weeks where like my refrigerator broke and then my dryer broke and then there was a leak in my roof, like everything was going wrong. And I had, speaking of, this brings us full circle back to what you were just saying about words and language. And I said, and I remember like jokingly, like looking up at the sky and being like, what next? What is there? Just a black cloud? Like just follow me around, cloud, you know?
Yeah.
And then, so that brought me to my bank moment. And in that moment, I was like, I have a choice here. I could keep asking the black cloud to follow me, or I could ask it not to. And I could say, what power do I have? What control do I have? How do I shift right now? Just like The Secret says, I could change, that message that I'm sending to the universe. And I can realize that this is not my life. This is Frank's life. And I'm going to let Frank have his life. And I'm going to pull myself out of Frank's life and I'm going to start living Stacy's life. And everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything just like magic.
Well, you just said it, Stacy.
Yep.
It's the fact that we have choices, and even sometimes it's those moments where we feel like we've hit rock bottom that we finally go, okay, I've got to make another choice here. But it's in the choosing our words or our thoughts or our perspectives or our emotions or the actions that we take where we're empowered. And we do have a choice in how we feel and how we think. And that does have a huge effect on what we attract. So good for you that you allowed that moment to bring you to a place where you didn't go deeper into being a victim. You found your own empowerment. You found that resolve within you to go, no, I have a choice here and I'm going to choose something different. So good for you.
Yeah. And I think that what helped me the most at that time, I guess, and you can speak more to this and help us understand it better, but, some of the language of the law of attraction that talks about like, don't ask how it's going to happen, right? Like we can't get tripped up into, well, but how is that possible? That we have to believe that the universe can give us $1 million just as easily as it can give us $1. Right? That there is abundance. And I remember just thinking like, I have to just know that I can create my reality. And if I believe that I can have the $1 million and that I could have a house and that I could get myself out of this hole financially that my husband has put us in, and I don't question how, and I just believe, then I can just go forward one day at a time. And the most amazing thing happened. And I love this story. So it was really very shortly after this. And I was like, I had asked my husband for a divorce and he moved out of the house, and I was trying to catch up on all of our bills and bring ourselves full circle. And I remember my electric bill, I think I was like $2,000 behind. And I was like, oh, where am I going to get the $2,000 from? And then I perked up and I corrected myself. And I said, I'm not going to ask where. I'm going to just ask the universe for the $2,000. And I'm going to believe that the $2,000 is coming. And I wrote myself a check for $2,000. And I held it in my hand and I looked at the check and I was like, okay, this is the last bill I'm going to catch up on. And I am going to catch up on it. And it feels so good to catch up on everything. And I just talked about it like it was already happening. And then the craziest thing happened. I'm sitting in a session with a patient. And this is the first and last time in my 30 years of being a therapist that this has ever happened, because this is a crazy thing that never happens. My patient comes in, and the insurance that she had was an insurance that I was out of network with. So the way we did things was she would pay me for the session, and then I would give her a bill, and she would submit the bill, and then she would get reimbursed or whatever. So she comes in one day with this enormous manila envelope, and she was just like, I got all this stuff in the mail, and I think it belongs to you. I don't know what it is. I'll give it to you. You can sort through it and look at it and let me know. And I was just like, okay. So she hands me this big envelope. I put it down on my side table, and we have our session. She leaves. I have my next session. The end of the night, I'm like dying of curiosity. Like, what is in this thing? I open it up, and it's a check for $2,100
I love it.
because, and again, this is crazy, the insurance company realized that it was underpaying for all of the sessions that she was having, and that what they had paid for the sessions was lower than what they should have paid. So they went back a whole year, and they gave her the difference, which is bananas. I mean, insurance companies
It's
don't do
so
this.
it's so
So
perfect.
bananas. And I sat there and I'm looking at this check, and I start shaking, and I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is, right? And that's the energy, and that's the magic, I think, of what you're talking about.
It is. And that's it. The law of detachment is really part of that, where you don't have to worry about the how, the who, the what, the where, any of that. It's you stay in alignment with your desire and what you want, and the feeling place of it, imagining it, and, really as making it like it's done, and feeling what it feels like to be in the fulfillment, because that's the deal. If we're in lack and we're vibrating in the I don't have it, how will I get it? That kind of thing, we're in lack, which doesn't feel good. But the minute we go into the fulfillment of it, like imagining that it already exists, that you have the $2,000, you feel what that feels like to be free, that's when we're in vibration to be able to fulfill it. I mean, I've had, for 25 years, right? I've had clients, when I help them shift, all of a sudden they're like, the insurance company out of the blue just gave me a refund check for $48,000. Or, I've had a client one time that was in an abusive relationship, and she felt so stuck, and I was helping her look at the perspective of she's free, she has choices, and her ex-husband at the time controlled the money, so she had no money, she had no way of getting money. And as soon as she shifted her perspective, she got a check in the mail for $10,000, because her dad, who died 4 years prior, gave her a $10,000, insurance policy.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so it's like things like that happen more often than we even know about. And it's the magic, it's the surprise and the delights that the universe has for us when we're in alignment to believe and have faith in that. That's the flow. Like, we're in the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I love those stories.
Thank you. I love them too. And there's so many more, because it's like, once you see the evidence of it, and you see what you can manifest just with your own thoughts and putting that energy out there, it's like you can't let your own belief system of what is get in the way of what can be, right? And which can be so hard, which brings us to my next question for you as a coach. When you are working with clients, I'm sure that you definitely come across people that get stuck in the lack, right? They get stuck in that language, and they get stuck in maybe some maladaptive belief systems that, make it hard for them to allow, the allowing, right?
Yes.
How do you help those people? How do you help people shift away from the
Because I would
negative and
think
into the,
that becomes just like this automatic self-talk and this autopilot way of thinking. And to get someone to stop, to change the way they're thinking has got to be a challenge. It's a challenge, we see.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So the first thing I start with, because when I learned this, it was change your thoughts. And it's hard to stop a thought, right? It's hard to pay attention to every thought that you have. And so for me, it began with, how do I feel? and checking in with myself throughout the day of how do I feel. Now, I come from the generation that you weren't supposed to feel anything. You're supposed to suppress it. Don't feel
Mhm.
disappointed, don't feel anger, girls don't feel this. And so I was used to doing everything I could to not feel myself. And so to then learn about this and now I got to feel myself, like I had to
Mhm.
relearn that, right? And I find that even just the feeling and feeling the energy of the feeling, a lot of clients like myself don't know how to feel themselves. So a lot of times it's getting into really helping them understand their emotional body, which is our belly. We have 4 different bodies. We have our mental body, our emotional body, obviously our physical body, and then our energy body. So it depends on the client. And sometimes, people could be really mental with like their negative thoughts.
Mm.
Do processes and things with them to get the mental body shifted. Sometimes it's an emotional thing where they're really stuck with an imprint of something that happened, like a trauma. Like, I write about in the flow factor, we as humans are hardwired with fight, flight, freeze, fawn, meaning
Mm.
that's like our survival instinct. And
Yep.
when someone is like, whether it's a bunny rabbit or a turtle or a human being, when we have something negative or traumatic that happens to us, a lot of times we close down. We either just freeze like the bunny rabbit does, or we withdraw, like the turtle does, or sometimes we fight. We're fighting the person, not physically, but inside our minds, we're continuing to argue with them, argue for our limitations. We get stuck in the drama triangle. We get stuck in what I like to call the triangle of lack. And so it's doing processes like, opening up the back of the head and neck. These are energy mastery processes where the back of the head, where this primal, primitive, animalistic part is, that part is responsible for our reactions and trying to keep us safe and keep us in that survival mode. But when we're back here, we're not letting the prefrontal cortex or the spiritual centers of our third eye, our insight, our intuition, or even our higher connection and higher awareness come into play because all the energy is down here. So
Mhm.
it might be even a physical thing that I work with someone to help them release it. But there's like a release valve at the back of the head and neck where the brain and the spine come together. If you put your finger there and put your head back, it's like right in that, your finger gets squished. It's right in that spot.
Mhm.
And it's like a release valve. So you just imagine, this is energy work, right? You might imagine like you're turning it on like a bathtub, like a bath knob or a radiator knob, and that you're opening it. And then all that energy that's stuck in there, that energy can start moving out, which then frees more of that prefrontal cortex where you can now start imagining a different future, where you can
Mhm.
start thinking about something that's pleasing. Because another part of our human brain is, it's like a light switch, right? It's either on or off. We're either pushing against the pain or pushing against something that we're avoiding or wanting to avoid, or we're focused on the pleasure. So for 25 years, 35 years, I've been doing this personally, but for 25 years, I've been helping clients ask themselves 3 questions. What do you want? And I cannot tell you how many times I've asked a client, so what do you want? They're like, well, I don't want it. And I'm like, not what I asked. What do you want? Right?
People have such a hard time allowing themselves to own that,
Yes.
right? It's
Most
so
people don't
hard.
get permission to
Yep.
even ask themselves that because
There's
it's like, what if
shame,
they
there's
want?
unworthiness, there's guilt. Yep.
Right. Or it's
Yeah.
like, what does everybody else want?
Mhm.
We don't even ask ourselves, what do I want?
Especially women.
Especially women, but we
Yep.
certainly know what we don't want. I don't want to gain weight. I don't want to lose my keys. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to get in debt. We know what we don't want.
Mm.
So the easiest way to find out what you do want is what's the opposite of that, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to get caught in traffic. Okay, what's the opposite of that? I want smooth, open roads. I don't want to get a divorce. Then what do you want? I want a healthy, connected marriage, right? So you look at what's the opposite of that, because right now all the energy and focus is going towards what you don't want. So it's pushing against trying to avoid the pain, getting in
Mhm.
survival mode. Again, that's lack, because we
Mhm.
don't feel good doing that. So the minute you ask yourself, what do I want? Your mental body shifts. And that's the first thing, the mental body shifting and focusing and envisioning That's number one. The second question is, why do you want that? So what do you want? Why do you want it? Because when you start thinking about why you want something, now your emotional body gets on board. And now you got 2 out of the 4 bodies focused on the pleasure, focused on what you do want and what would be feeling good, right? You got your mental and your emotional body focusing on that. Now that's going to affect the physical body. You're going to have biochemical, stuff going on, and you're going to release the feeling of the stress and the nerves, and the nerves will settle, the limbic system will settle down, right? But the biggest key here, so what do you want? Why do you want it? The third question is, how do you think you will feel in the having of it? And this is really key because most of us will assign our feelings outside of ourselves and into the future. When I get married, then I'll feel. When I make the money, then I'll feel. When I get out of debt, then I'll feel free. When I get a baby, then I'll feel like I have purpose. When I get this new promotion, then I'll feel successful. And again, it's coming from, I don't feel it now, which is being in lack. I don't feel it now, but when I get it, then I will. And we have to feel it now. The only time we can actually feel something is in the now. So what do I want? Focuses my mind. Why do I want it? Focuses my emotional body. And then knowing why I'm wanting something and then how I think I'm going to feel, now I'm aware that, okay, I'd feel successful. Well, imagine now what that level of success will feel like. Tell yourself, I am successful. Declare it, envision it. What does that look like? What would it feel like? Because now you're coming from that place of fulfillment, not lack.
Yeah. People ping pong from the past to the future, right? Past, future, and they don't sit in the moment because they want to avoid whatever it is that they're feeling, because what they're feeling is something that they don't believe they can tolerate.
Yeah.
Right. So the work you're doing is amazing work because
Thank
you're
you.
really giving people the opportunity to sit with and learn how to tolerate their distress and turn it into something positive in a way that can bring them into this future template that brings them into the future and present at the same time, to say, this is what I want, and this is where I see myself going, and this is how I'm going to feel. And I can feel that right now. And I'm going to give myself permission, right, to feel it right now and to allow it. Because I think that's, what, just like you said, I think one of the biggest places where we get stuck is in thinking, I don't deserve, I'm not worthy.
I
What about
can't
everybody
have it.
else?
Yeah.
There's so much shame and guilt, I think, attached to fulfillment for so many people. And so they have to really work through that discomfort. And it
Yes.
sounds like you're giving them, the avenue with which to do that, which is great.
Well, you even said it. So our minds naturally do this. So we got to stop fighting against our natural way of being. Our minds naturally will go past, present, future, it's a cycle. It does it all the time. Whether it's like, oh, what did I have for breakfast? Oh, okay. Well, I'm hungry now. What am I going to eat now? Well, what are we going to have for dinner? Are we going out for dinner? Like we do this all day, every day. And what we don't realize is that if we hit a pain point from the past, that literally eclipses our moment now, because it's like, oh, I'm feeling pain now. And then we project that pain into the future. I didn't have enough before. I don't have enough now. So in the future, I'm not going to have enough either. And so it's working with the law of deliberate creation to be able to stop. Wait a minute. Like you said, I have a choice. I can't control my past. I can release the energy from that imprinted parts. I can let that go and shift so that I'm no longer holding on to it. But I do that in the now as I project and choose a different future self, a different future imagination, picture, visualization. And when you can get your reference to the past healed because of the energy, right? It's the energy that pulls us back. when we can release that, then we feel more centered and connected in the now, which then lets our future projection, which we're creating all the time, feel more exciting. And now we're in joyful expectation instead of like dreading something that we once hated happening to us happening again, and staying in that worry and that fear and all that. Because everything is energy. And when we as humans have a moment, I talk about this in the flow factor, that I like to call these bushwhacks, right? There's big T traumas and there's little T traumas, and then there's bushwhacks. Bushwhacks are you're going along and you're feeling good, and then you hear some news of, something disappointing or something you don't want. And a lot of times, instead of feeling the disappointment or feeling the anger or feeling the sadness and letting that emotion move through us, because it takes 90 seconds to actually feel, like have an emotion hit, have an awareness of it, feel it move through every cell, and then release out if we're not constricting. If we're just in place of allowance, it like a wave of energy, it moves in and then it moves out. Bring compassion to ourselves. That's huge. Bring compassion to ourselves to neutralize ourselves, and then move on. We can then choose how we want to feel. But most people don't know that. Most people haven't had that experience. So we, like a turtle, close down. We close our hearts down. And whatever energy we close down around, that becomes an imprint. And talking about the law of attraction, energy can't just settle down. It's not like, okay, I'm stuck here. It spirals, it moves. And so it becomes like a vortex of energy. And then we start attracting from that point. That's why I'm disappointed. And now I'm continuing to feel this disappointment, right? It's the whole thing. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I'm stuck here, but I'm vibrating in that stuckness. And therefore, whatever energy I'm holding, whatever emotion I haven't allowed myself to process, I'm now attracting things from that place.
So when you explain this to people, right, and you bring them into this place of understanding this, do you get, do people understand? Do you get pushback? Do people, come at you with a lot of blocking beliefs and predisposed ideas about what they think to be true that kind of gets them stuck? Because I'm wondering if there's, maybe like a low hanging fruit, something that you can share with the people that are listening or the people that are watching, this, this conversation that might be getting stuck. I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking as a therapist, I'm thinking therapeutically, there are people that come in, and when we work with them around sitting with emotion and tolerating distress and understanding that, they go into fight or flight when they have those big T traumas or those little T traumas. And even though an emotion only lasts for 90 seconds, unless you feed it with upset or angry thoughts or sad thoughts or whatever it is, people very quickly get into that cycle because the emotion itself releases the fight or flight response, especially if it is a painful emotion. If it's sadness or anger or disappointment or frustration, people will, the amygdala will light up, right? That back part of the brain will light up and they will go into fight or flight, which will shut down the thinking brain. And they then will be, kind of in that place. And sometimes I find, and I'm sure you come into this, is people will have a need or a secondary gain to hold on to this place of discomfort. And it could come from so many different places where, there's a part of them that shows up really wanting to move away from this and move forward. And they want to be happy in a relationship, and they want to be in a good place financially. And, they want to find the career of their dreams and feel fulfilled, but there's something that holds them back and they feel stuck. And so, I'm wondering, for the people out there that might be listening and they might be like, yeah, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could just, believe my way out of this feeling, because, when an emotion comes over me, it lasts a lot longer than 90 seconds. We know biologically the biofeedback loop of an emotion is 90 seconds, but people tend to make that last way longer than 90 seconds. And sometimes it is because of guilt or it is because of loyalty, and they feel like it's betrayal to not continue to hold on to an emotion about what is going on because they feel bad for somebody else or they feel guilty letting go or whatever it is. They think that that negative emotion, even though it's not serving them, is in some way something they have to be loyal to.
Well, there's a
So,
payoff, right? There's a
yep,
payoff to being in the drama triangle. There's a payoff to
yes,
play the victim, to
yep,
persecute, right? There's
yep,
reasons why, and it goes deeper than, hey, let's just believe in the positive things. Of course, I mean,
yes,
there's
yep,
so much more depth. We're not that simplistic of, human beings. If it was that
hmm,
simplistic, we'd all be
yep,
like super happy. So, but it's the willingness, right? I only work with people that come to me, and I only attract clients that are really willing. And even then, I have clients, I have a client I'm just thinking about when you were saying that she really, really wants to create a different life. And yet she really likes being a victim. And
Mm.
or she's comfortable because that's what she's always known.
yeah.
So
She
I
needs
call,
it for
so,
some reason.
so
Yeah.
I call that having split energy. And
Hmm.
whenever we have a part that is reluctant or resistant to change, what I bring in with them, and this is key for everything, because this neutralizes. This neutralizes the part of us that are in lack, is
Hmm.
compassion. And I'm not talking about compassion for others. I'm talking self-compassion. And
Hmm.
self-compassion is really, like I like to say, in three aspects. First of all, it's the intention, whether you call it a prayer, an intention, an invitation, whether it's from a spiritual connection to your soul and, helping people really blend and connect with a deeper part of themselves, which is their soul. I do a lot of soul work with people. I channel. So bringing in that energy is
Hmm.
number one. The second part, and everybody can do this right now. If you're listening to, if you're driving, just keep one hand on the steering wheel, however you're listening to this. But Stacy and Heather, I'm going to ask you guys to do this too. Wrap your arms around yourself and hug yourself. Just hug yourself. Just give yourself a genuine hug. Like you like yourself, you love yourself. Just give yourself a hug. And even if it's for that 90 seconds, feel like how you're starting to calm down. Your limbic system is starting to relax. You can even rub yourself, right? You could tap yourself. It's like tap your back. You could rock yourself if you want. But it's
Hmm.
this feeling of, I've got me. This starts the comfort. This starts the soothing. And then in this, it's, I've got you, right? It's like, I'm okay. We're okay. You're going to be all right. Things are turning
Hmm.
out, right? It's like you have every right to feel that way. Not trying to change you, not trying to make you different. You're okay just the way you are. Like, doesn't that feel good?
Hmm.
Mm.
I mean, it's comforting
It is.
and it's neutralizing. So it's neutralizing to the pushing against, and even those parts that want to feel like a victim and have reason to, right? It's justifiable, right? We could
Yeah.
put a court together, or have a lawyer come and go, these are all the reasons why you are justified. And you could create a case, and probably a judge
Hmm.
would say, yes, you're right. You have every reason to feel like a victim. How is that serving you now and in the future? It's not. So if you're wanting to change your life, that part of you has to be willing to come along for the ride. And
Hmm.
neutralizing, giving that part compassion is very different than feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah. I think it's all great stuff. I know that one of the things you talk about in your book, and you mentioned to me briefly over the phone, and I don't want us to run out of time without talking about it, is that doing grief work is something that you enjoy doing and something that you, I think, talk about in the flow factor, correct?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are on that and how that works within the energy work that you do and how you talk about it in your book?
Yeah, it's really, again, it's about letting yourself be present with whatever emotion is coming up. And my grief work started because 27 years ago, my sister committed suicide. And I was already working with energy, and I had a very spiritual approach to her passing. And for me, it was a decision, like we're talking about. It was a choice. I could either let what she chose ruin my life and
Hmm.
have me stuck in my own, pity party of, oh, I lost my sister to suicide. Or I could look at what she did and what choice she made as a wake up call for me. And so I chose the latter. And I decided to allow myself to grieve, to feel the anger if it came up, to feel the sadness if it came up. I let
Hmm.
myself go into the depths. There'd be times when I was driving and I had to pull over and cry. There'd be times when I was putting up an ornament on the Christmas tree, and I used to see her a lot at Christmas, and that was kind of our special time. Can't tell you how many times during Christmas time I had to go into my closet or my bedroom and just cry,
Yeah.
So it was just an allowance of knowing that this is a big traumatic thing that happened, but I get to choose to allow myself to feel and to flow those emotions so that I'm not stuck in them. And that was a willingness that I had. So I teach my clients how to do the same thing. I hold space for them so that they can feel safe to cry if they need to
Yeah.
process what they're needing to, but to also watch the mental body, because the mind might go, oh, I miss that person so much, and and go into what they've never, what they don't have anymore, and what they're missing, and that never feels good. So it's like processing the emotion that comes up, but then helping them shift their perspective that the love is still here. The connection, that person is still like, I have so many stories of my sister, even though she died by suicide, where she still talks to me and still shows me, symbols and music and things
Yep.
like that. And so I never lost her. I gained her in a different way. And so that perspective and bringing in that spiritual soul connection, that non-physical aspect to it, it helps someone feel comforted. And once
Yeah.
they grieve, then they can connect with that person in a very different way than they could if the person was alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great just shifting the relationship, understanding that the relationship continues to exist in a different way,
Indeed. Yeah.
right? It's so hard, but it's such important work, right?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about saying, I can have thoughts that are painful, but I can still be okay,
Yeah.
right? And just, you know, resilience is in the allowance of experiencing emotions, right? That's the work.
Yeah.
That's the work that
Exactly.
we all have to do, right? To be resilient, to be happy in this world. We have to allow ourselves, right, to experience pain and discomfort and know that we can still be okay.
Well, contrast, as I wrote in the flow factor,
Yep.
contrast is a part of every single person's life. It doesn't matter if you're
Mhm.
the richest person in the world, if they're the biggest top celebrity, it doesn't matter who we are. We all experience contrast. And contrast is something we can't avoid. But the resistance to the contrast that's our choice. And that's where we have our power. Is how am I going to look at this? What perspective am I going to hold about this? Am I going to judge this? Because the minute we judge something as bad or wrong, that's when we go into constriction. That's when we're
Mhm.
not in the energy of flow. So when we can come back into compassion, when we can bring ourselves back into that neutrality, it's like that's that middle bucket. So remember, lack's over here, it doesn't feel good. Abundance is over here, it feels great. Many times people can't go from lack into abundance, but they can sidestep into that neutrality. And that's where I help people move up that vibrational scale so that they can at least feel okay, because it's law of sufficiency and abundance. Because now that I'm okay, now I'm open to something bigger, better, greater.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Heather,
Yeah.
I know that we started out where you were saying, I don't know much about the law of attraction
Nope.
and energy and stuff like that. And it was something where you were kind of excited to hear and learn. So
Feeling overwhelmed by a lot of
I'm
this.
wondering if you have any questions or if this has helped you to understand, because that can help us gauge, how some people listening might be feeling. Is this something that, do you have a better understanding? Is it resonating for you? Do you have any questions?
I do, and it's making me want to read more about it and learn more about it because I'm hearing certain things, that you're talking about going, wow, that would be really helpful for me. Or wow, like that would, I lost my mother recently and just
I'm
the whole
sorry.
idea of, grieving and having that connection to her very differently, that sounds great. I'd like to, really work on that.
Yeah. So, yeah, the flow factor talks about everything that we've been talking about, and it breaks it down. And I've had people that have read it and say, thank you for making it understandable for me. It's not like, oh my God, this is so difficult. One of the things I like to do is make things very practical for people. So, just in in this conversation, right, understand, like, we all know what a piano keyboard looks like, right? I have a piano over there. Sometimes I might point over there. So there's a piano over there, right? That piano has the potential to play Bach, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, or Chopsticks, or anything else in between, right? It's got the notes, the vibrations, the tones are there. We are the piano player. We're the ones that go up to that piano and either play the chopsticks, or we play, we learn how to play and master a beautiful song like the jazz singer or whatever it may be. But we're the ones that are choosing the notes. So I like to think about vibrations and emotions like the keys on the piano. You've got some really, really low notes all the way to some really, really high notes, right? And everything in between. So it might be like sadness, powerlessness, despair, anger, irritation, all the way up to worry, fear, all those different notes and tones. And then we get into the more neutral, where it's like compassion and peace and harmony and those kind of vibrations. And then you get into the more passion, purpose, abundance, success. Like, these are the higher notes and tones. But we're the piano player. We're the ones that choose it. And the universe, everything is energy. Like, the pure positive energy is provided for us. It's unlimited. And so when we are the ones saying, I want to feel joy, or I am joy, or I want to feel success, or I am success, now we're playing that particular note. Now we're in allowance with it. Now we can be in receptivity with it. We start using our imagination. We can start journaling about it, or start contemplating about it, or start even visualizing it. Now we're becoming closer and closer and finding that fulfillment. We're in resonance with it, like as if we were playing that key. So think of yourself as you have this piano in the sky sort of thing, with any note and vibration that's available, and it's up to us to choose it and to play it as often as we can. And when we do and resonate with it, then we're going to see our outer reality shift.
You had mentioned like journaling and meditating and picturing. I mean, are those some of the things you'll tell clients to do to kind of get to that place of imagining that and being open to that?
Those are very basic starting out type of things. I mean,
I'm basic.
yeah, like well, okay. But yeah, like meditation. A lot of times it's hard for people to just sit in a room and quiet their minds, right? So
Mhm.
there's lots of different types of meditations. The one that I do, and I do series of meditations on certain subjects like abundance or joy, flow, right? Is guided meditation, so that
Mhm.
I'm guiding you. And what you're doing is you've got your mind working. So your mind is following energy, your mind is thinking of something. So your mind is busy, but you're feeling the relief, right? You're
Mhm.
meditating, but it's a guided meditation. So I always recommend that to someone that has never meditated before, because I remember starting out and trying to sit there, and it was like, the monkey
Mhm.
mind, and I was up doing things within 5 minutes or even 2 minutes of like, "Oh, I gotta do that," right?
Yep.
So having someone to guide you through a meditation, whether it's through a recording or live, that's a great place to start. Imagination or visualizing is absolutely essential no matter where you are in the level of understanding this, because these are imagination machines, right? We're making meaning all the time to things. And when we're always imagining towards what we don't want. And so for us to imagine what we do want, that's utilizing our minds, our mental body in a way that's going to be creative and constructive and
Mhm.
co-creative with us.
And
And then,
shifting away towards like
yes.
away from the lack and towards the abundance.
Exactly. Journaling is great because it helps get out all of that stuckness of the fight flight stuff in our brains. It helps us get clear. It's like we're dumping out what's in our heads, what we're worried about. That's a great way to do that. Affirmations are really great too, but I always say that the energy work and then affirmations, because otherwise saying an affirmation, if like, I'm happy, and you're like, not, right? It's kind of like taking flowers and just tossing them on top of the soil instead of digging in the soil and planting them. So affirmations are also a really great tool. The Flow Factor has literally 16 energy mastery processes at the back of the book. It's an appendix. So I have it for the mental body, I have it for the emotional body, for the physical body. So if someone is experiencing some kind of physical pain or discomfort, and then the energy body of the spirit body. Because one thing we didn't talk about is, and there's so many studies and secret talks about that, and there's just so much more research now, that the physical body is a reflection of our thoughts and our emotions. And when we are not processing those negative thoughts, or we're thinking the same thought over and over about I'm getting old, or that sort of thing, or this happens at age 40, or this happens during menopause, and oh well, it's down here from hill from here, or any of those kind of negative thoughts that we have, we start to then feel bad, or we feel angry, right? And they've tied anger to cancer now. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we hold inside of our own emotional tank. And think of it like a bathtub that you keep stuffed up. Like if you were going to go run the bathtub and you've clogged it, and you keep the water running, it's going to flow over. And so our physical bodies hold the flow over. And so when you can release the energy from your physical body, I've had women get rid of lifetimes of migraines by working with energy. I've had women that had shoulder, knee pain. Oh, this is a good one. Hip pain, digestive issues, start to work with the energy, and then they don't have that anymore. Lost weight because of it. There was one woman years ago. She was 54 and she had to go in for full hip replacement. That's my age, right? And I'm like, I can't imagine going, nor do I want to, going into for a whole hip replacement. So I did one session with her, and she got into the emotions of what was holding in her hips. And she had some abuse from her ex-husband, and she was holding her child, and she was trying to guard her child while he was, mentally and emotionally abusing her. So she kept all of that in her hips. And as she let go of all that pain and discomfort and cleared the energy from it, a week later, she went to go meet with her physician, and the doctor told her, "You're no longer a candidate for hip replacement."
Wow.
And
Wow.
this is 8 years ago, and she still hasn't had to. She's still totally fine because she cleared the energy that was causing the
Mm.
ailment.
Wow.
It's
Yeah,
powerful.
that mind-body connection is pretty powerful.
We are the god of our bodies, right? Like
Yeah.
we are the commander of this ship, and if we're telling our bodies how amazing it is and how giving it love and gratitude and appreciating it. I like to say, go in the shower and like you take a loofah, right? You put your soap on, you put your loofah, give yourself love, like every single cell in your body. Appreciate your arms, appreciate your hands, your chest, your breasts, your hair, your head, your butt, everything, down to your feet. Just give yourself a love shower, and your body will respond to that because you're soothing, you're giving love to your body, and the cells in your body, the ones that are being birthed at that time, are being birthed into love, and those that are still hanging around for a bit, they're soaking in the love, and those that are sloughing off, they're dying, and then you are literally reprogramming and becoming cellularly, you're becoming a new person, but this time you're loving yourself instead of degrading yourself or feeling guilt or shame or all of the other emotions that decrease the cellular structure. It's like the book from The Hidden Messages of Water from Dr. Emoto. He did research, and he did experiments where he had water, and in one bottle of water, a container of water, he would give love and appreciation, and in another one he would give nasty comments and say mean things. And under the microscope, the ones that had the water of appreciation and love, they looked like beautiful snowflakes, and they were just beautiful and bright and crystallized. The cells, if you will, or the water that was underneath the ones that was getting denigrated and beaten up and guilted, they were all dark and mutilated, and our bodies are mostly water.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think it's a really great way to remind us that we can shift at any moment that message that we're putting out there into the universe, and how we are really showing up in the world, right? If we are healthy, if we are not healthy, whether it be physically healthy or emotionally healthy, right? We can change our language, right? To bring us full circle back to where we started, right? Change our language and change our life.
Exactly.
Literally.
That's what I have on watchyourwords.com, word for word. You change your language, you change your life.
Oh, wow.
Wow. You
You
guys are
do.
connected.
We're in sync.
Your energy.
Our energy.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
powerful. And the more you learn about this, the
Mhm.
more fascinating it becomes, and the more you master your own energy and you see your
Yeah.
life change before your eyes. It's a privilege to be a human instead of being in like, it's like you really start to appreciate your life and love your life. No matter what condition anybody's in right now, you can change now.
Right
And
now,
right
everybody, you hear
now,
that?
right
Right
now.
now. Right now.
Like Stacy,
Yeah.
that choice that you made, it's like,
Mhm.
enough of this, right?
Yeah. Turning point moment. From that moment forward, my entire life changed. Everything in it, relationship, money, career, everything. And it
It's
was
never
because
too
I
late.
made a decision, and that was it. I made
And
that
it's never
decision.
never too late.
Yep, that is true. So, I mean, all great, amazing stuff. And I wish that we could talk to you for hours.
Yes, I'm feeling all inspired.
Good. I'm
Good.
The whole
glad.
point. And I hope that energy is out there for everybody else that's listening, because this could be really such helpful, life-changing stuff. So we
Yeah.
are so grateful to you for coming on our show
Thank you
and
so much for being here.
for
Thank you.
sharing your expertise and all of your experience and excellence in what you do. Even if it changes one life, we've accomplished something wonderful here.
Yep.
Well, that's how I started out because my sister did what she did. I said to myself,
Mhm.
if I can change one life doing this, I've done my job. And
Yeah.
fortunately, I've changed a little bit more than just one. So I've been
Yeah.
a conduit. People change your life, right? I don't change other people's lives. I help transform their lives by their willingness to do so. So if you have the willingness to do so, and you're like, yes, I want a better life, I want something different or better,
Mhm.
you have the power within you to do that.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for everything you shared with us today and for being here and for your time. We really appreciate you.
Yes.
Heather, do you have any last thoughts or
Nope.
questions? Christy, is there anything that you would like to say that you didn't get a chance to say? You feel like, oh, I missed that opportunity to share this or that. Any last thoughts, or do you feel like we did a good job in kind of really bringing in a lot of what you wanted to share with us?
I really do. I would say the only thing is how to get the book, and it's, you could get it anywhere. It's the Flow Factor. You could go to the flowfactorbook.com, and it has all the different places that you could get it
Mm-hmm.
online, and it'll be at, local bookstores. You can order it if they don't have it. So I highly recommend it because what
Mm-hmm.
I've heard over and over and over again is once you read this book, you can't undo what you now know, and it's life-changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we will definitely share all of that information in the notes so that
Yep,
anyone
we'll post a
listening or
link.
watching can have a better understanding of where to find it. But, definitely everyone go out there and get the Flow Factor for sure. So again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you, and we learned a lot.
Yes, thank you.
All great stuff.
Good.
All right. So with that said, pod people, you know what to do. Subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, wherever you are watching or listening, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So you can be reminded when new episodes come out, because that helps you and it helps the podcast. And again, I am Stacy.
And I'm Heather.
And we are Why Do People Do That? We will see you next time. Why Do People Do That is recorded and produced by Press Record Studios.